CART Demo 1. Assess and identify resource concerns by land unit. The requirements for this lesson are: the planner is logged in to Conservation Desktop. A practice schedule has been created in CD with at least one planned land unit digitized to it. The Conservation Assessment Ranking Tool, or CART, is designed to assist conservation planners as they assess site vulnerability, existing conditions, and identify potential resource concerns on land units. Although CART does not directly rely on planning criteria for resource assessment, it utilizes similar inputs to provide thresholds to document whether planning criteria has been achieved or if additional conservation practices are necessary. The CART results are used to support conservation planning for the client. CART also captures this information to prioritize programs and report outcomes of NRCS investments in conservation. CART provides a streamlined framework to assess any of the 47 resource concerns identified by NRCS. Assessment of resource concerns is determined by the planner's interaction with the client and considers the client's conservation objectives. Accordingly, a planner may choose to assess and document a subset of the 47 resource concerns consistent with the progressive planning process. CART assessment questions are not meant to document every question, criteria, and consideration that may be evaluated on a land unit. Rather, they are designed to document resource concerns and the need for conservation practices to meet the assessment threshold. No assessment can completely capture all the potential variability a conservation planner may encounter across the nation, and CART is being designed to document cases when a planner identifies a basis to override the CART assessment. This override should be used when a planner can identify through observation or other assessment methods that the threshold has or has not been met, but may be outside or improperly recognized using the streamlined CART questions, information, and analysis framework designed to capture typical conditions. All information is captured on a land unit basis, which allows CART to maintain this information for future planning efforts on the same operation. The aggregate data set can be used to improve future iterations of the tool. CART provides a configurable system to evaluate geospatial information along with planner-entered data through targeted questions. To efficiently design a system to both capture the data and utilize it for multiple purposes, a point system framework was developed. Every field is evaluated for key intrinsic site characteristics, when applicable, which affect each resource concern. A threshold score is set, which is intended to represent the effort needed to attain a target level of resource conservation using conservation management and conservation practices. Sites are then evaluated for existing management and conservation efforts and compared to the threshold to determine what level of conservation effort is needed. The objectives for this lesson are: at the end of the lesson, you will be able to create an assessment in CART from CD, assign resource concerns to tracts land units, and complete the resource inventory in CART. First, we will create an assessment in CART. Expand the practice schedule accordion in CD if necessary. Under the practice schedule, select Assess. CART will open in a new Internet Explorer window and display loading system and assessment information. CART opens a Create New Assessment dialog. The practice schedule name will appear as the default name for the assessment, but this can be changed if desired. Select Create Assessment. Note that initial geospatial processing related to thresholds, existing conditions, and special environmental concerns is completed during the creation of the CART assessment. Therefore, users may experience a noticeable delay to create the assessment. Do not refresh or click F5 during this process. CART loads the assessment. Next, we will identify assessed tracts and land units. From the Assessment Summary page, under the Assessed Tract Land Unit column, select the arrows next to the different tracts to expand out each land unit. By default, all the tracts and land units will be checked. Planners can click on the boxes to uncheck any land units that they do not wish to include in the assessment. Note that any tracts with land units that have been unselected will have a dash in the checkbox at the tract level to designate that there is at least one land unit under that tract that has not been included in the assessment. CART allows you to change land uses and add modifiers. Select the pasture land use for Tract 1000, Land Unit 1. The Land Use Details box appears. Under the Modifiers list, select the box for Grazed and select Save. Repeat to add a grazed modifier for Tract 1000, Land Units 2, 3, and 4. Select the crop land use for Tract 3000, Land Unit 9. Select the arrow next to the land use in the Land Use Details box to view other land use options. For training purposes, leave the selected land use as crop and select Cancel to exit. Confirm the details are entered for all the land units for land use and land use modifiers. All of Tract 1000 should be pasture with the land use modifier of grazed. All of Tract 2000 and 3000 should be crop with no land use modifier. Select Save Changes from the Assessment Summary page. Next, we need to identify resource concerns for assessment. From the Assessment Summary page, click on Resource Concerns. From the Resource Concern page, the list of resource concern categories is displayed in an alphabetical list. Each resource concern category has a drop-down arrow next to it to display the resource concerns in that category. Select the Concentrated Erosion Resource Concern category to expand it. Note, you can select a resource concern category again to collapse it. Select Classic Gully Erosion from the Resource Concern drop-down list. Under the Land Units section on the right of the screen, select the tract arrows to expand the land units tree. Note that land units can also be grouped and viewed by land use type using the View by box. Select Tract 2000, Land Unit 7. Note, if a land unit is checked, then the resource concern is marked to be assessed for the land unit. If it is unchecked, then the resource concern will not be assessed. To remove a resource concern from being marked to be assessed on a land unit, select the box next to the land unit to unselect it. Scroll down to the bottom of the page to see the selected resource concern listed for the selected land units in the summary grid. Next, select the Degraded Plant Condition category. Then select the Plant Productivity and Health resource concern from the drop-down. Select Tract 1000, Land Units 1 through 4 to mark this resource concern to be assessed on them. Note, rather than selecting the box next to each individual land unit, you can select the box at the tract level to assess a resource concern on every land unit under the tract. The Plant Productivity and Health resource concern is added to the land units on the summary grid at the bottom of the page. Repeat to add additional resource concerns to the following tract and land units. Under Field Sediment, Nutrient, and Pathogen Loss, add the resource concern Nutrients Transported to Surface Water for Tract 1000, Land Units 1 through 4, and Tract 2000, Land Units 5 through 8. Under Field Sediment, Nutrient, and Pathogen Loss category, add the Sediment Transported to Surface Water resource concern for Tract 2000, Land Units 5 through 8. Under the Livestock Production limitation, add the resource concern Inadequate Livestock Water Quantity, Quality, and Distribution to Tract 1000, Land Unit 1. Under the Pest Pressure Resource Concern category, add the Plant Pest Pressure Resource Concern to track 1000 land units 1 through 4. Under Soil Quality Limitations Resource Concern category, add the Aggregate Instability Resource Concern to track 2000 land units 5 through 8. Under the Weather Resilience Resource Concern category, add the Seasonal High Water Table Resource Concern to track 2000 land unit 9. Under the Wind and Water Erosion Resource Concern category, add the Sheet and Rill Erosion Resource Concern to track 2000 land units 5 through 8 and track 3000 land unit 9. The added resource concerns are displayed in the summary grid at the bottom of the page. Select Done in the summary grid header to save the entries for all land units. Note that planners can click the box next to a specific tract land unit to mark progress completion for a specific tract land unit. All tracts land units must be marked Done for resource concerns to be marked Complete rather than In Progress on the assessment summary page. Select Save Resource Concerns when finished. Navigate back to the assessment summary by clicking it in the breadcrumbs at the top of the page. The status for resource concerns is marked Complete for each tract land unit. Our next step is the resource inventory. The resource inventory questions will be dependent on the land uses, land use modifiers, and the resource concerns previously identified. Some questions will also build on answers to other questions. A detailed guide on which and how the resource inventory questions affect resource concerns is available on the CART Help USDA Connect wiki page. This guide provides additional reference text for each of the question answer choices, since hover text for answers is not available in the first deployment of CART. The document also provides background on how the thresholds are calculated for each question and the point options for different answer choices. When completing the inventory, be careful not to double count points when applying practices in the next section. For example, if Yes is selected for Does the client follow an NRCS nutrient management plan, do not add the 590 nutrient management plan as an existing practice, since this would double count the points for having a nutrient management plan in the assessment. From the assessment summary page, select Resource Inventory. Under the Affected Tracts and Land Units table, select each tract to expand the land units tree. Note that this table can be viewed by tract or land use type. Under Survey Type, select the circle next to Land Use to load the survey. The land use survey and questions will appear below. Note, the infrastructure survey status shows to be complete in this example because no questions in this survey are required to be answered for any of the land units. Under the land use survey, select Inventory to expand the questions in this survey section. Select the question Crop Rotation Cover, Residue, and Biomass to expand the answer choices under it. CART flags that answers are required for this question for Tract 2000, Land Units 5 through 8, and Tract 3000, Land Unit 9. Note that for each question selected, the affected tract land units table will flag the land units that require an answer for that question. Question applicability should be determined based on the land uses, modifiers, and resource concerns identified. Select the answer Low Depleting Soil Organic Matter and select the boxes next to Tract 2000 and Tract 3000 to apply that answer to every land unit in those tracts. Next, select Classic Gully Erosion Condition to expand the answer choices under it, and then select No Gully Observed. Select Tract 2000 land units 5, 6, and 8 to apply this answer to those land units. Next, select answer Gully is observed, then select tract 2000, land unit 7. We will answer the remaining land use inventory survey questions for ephemeral gully erosion condition, seasonal high water table, and aggregate stability. Any question that has land units flagged must be answered in order to mark the resource inventory as complete. Some survey questions are conditional on the answers to other questions. For example, in the land use survey, select the livestock section to expand the livestock questions. The livestock questions on the land unit survey are all unavailable except for the initial question, livestock present on the PLU. If no, the rest of the questions are not applicable. If yes, then the additional questions are available to answer. Select Yes for tract 1000, land units 1 through 4. Note, the additional livestock and grazing survey questions are now active. Select No for tract 2000, land units 5 through 8, and tract 3000, land unit 9. Answer the remaining questions for the applicable tracts and land units in the land use survey, and also complete the management, infrastructure, wildlife, and special environmental concern surveys. The survey group status will be validated as complete for each survey when all the applicable questions in that survey have been answered for each required land unit. The status for resource inventory step table will display yes or no for required questions completed. When each land unit has a status of yes, then all the required questions in each survey have been answered. If the status is no, then there are required questions still to be answered for the land units. Select Done in the grid header for the Status by Resource Inventory step table to save the entries for all land units. Select Save Answers at the bottom of the page. Select Assessment Summary from the breadcrumbs at the top of the page. The Assessment Summary page will show the status for the resource inventory as complete.